Everything is working as expected, so now we can roll back this change to be the default 20. And now we're ready to start with the first step of our strategy for smooth upgrades. We finalized the next version release candidate where we have all the changes that we want to include in V2 RC1. And now I have to include all the corresponding logic to perform the upgrade. So let's start with that. The first thing that we have to include is a migration of our module store because we changed our game object. Remember that we now added this new field in RPS Proto. We added the expiration height, so all the previously existing games are not going to have this field, so we have to add a store migration to include this height. So to do this, we can check it out on the example module template. You will see that there's a migrations directory. So in here we have defined what are the changes for V2, for example. Here they don't have any migration defined, but let's define ours. So we will have in our module, new folder, migrations. We already have this one that we created previously. Let's remove migration and keep migrations and add a new folder, V2. And inside V2, we can add a new file called migrate.go. And this is going to contain the corresponding logic to migrate our stored objects. So for this we're going to need the SDK types. You have Cosmos SDK types. And we are going to have a function called migrate game that's going to use an SDK context and our games type. Okay. And this is going to return a type game with the new field. So first we can get the current height of the upgrade, and for the already existing games we're going to consider this block height, the upgrade block height, as the creation height because we don't know when these were created, and the expiration height is going to be in 64 of the current height plus the default params TTL, and that will give us our updated game. That's all that we have to include in this V2 migration of the store. And to wire this up to our module to perform this migration during the upgrade, we have to include in the keeper, there's a migration migrator.go that will be in charge of handling state migrations. So let's get this code. We can also get the commented out because we're going to need it, and add in our keeper migrator.go. And we can comment this function. We're going to migrate from version 1 to version 2. Context is input parameter. And this should pick up the function that we just defined. So this should be our repo, RPS chain, RPS, and this gets migrate. What's the name that we use for this? Migrate game. We'll have to iterate to migrate all the games. So here we'll say migrate games, add the expiration height for existing games. And we're going to iterate through all the games that we have stored at the moment. Walk context. We don't need to define a ranger. We're going to iterate through all the existing ones. And for the walk function, we're going to have the ID of the game and the game itself. Game types game, and then we have to return a boolean. We want to stop and an error. This is our walk function. And here we have our migrated game. That's going to be the v2 migrate game function. That's going to take as input the context and the game. And then we're going to set this new updated game to our state. Set this context, the ID and the migrated game. There's an error. Return true. So we'll stop iterating and we'll return the error in this case. And also we have to add this to the active games list, so we can cancel them if this becomes stale. So let's add our keeper, active games queue set, and we have to add here collections, the pair for the expiration height, and the ID. If there's an error, we'll return true and the error. Otherwise, return false, nil. And if this is an error, return error. And also down here, we'll need to set the new param, that's the TTL in our migration. So we are going to set the default param, and then via governance proposal can be updated. But for now, we'll set params, set context to default params. And these default params will bring the default TTL that we added. For the context, this has to be an SDK context, so let's get that. SDK unwrap SDK context. Let's get this, the corresponding import. GitHub.com Cosmos SDK types. Call it SDK. And this is unwrap SDK context from the context. And we have to include the collections. This is join, still there. And this will migrate our module from version 1 to version 2. Inside the module.go, we have to add as well the version, update version to version 2. And here we have to add the corresponding migration in the register services. We're going to register this migration. This is going to be types, module name, the migrator. Our migrator should have a migrate. What's the name that we have? Migrate 1 to 2. Migrate 1 to 2. This is the types. Migrator handler needs a SDK context, so yeah, it's okay, no worries. Better for us, this is an SDK context, so we don't need to unwrap this. Just use the context. Now it's working. And now we have everything registered to perform a migration on our module. The next step is to add it to our application to schedule the upgrade in our application. So let's do this. We can add in our root directory in the app. We'll add a new folder that's going to be for our upgrades, our application upgrades. And in this case, it's going to be v2. And here we will define two files. One's called constants.go package v2, and the other one is called upgrades. New file upgrades.go package v2. Here we can define some constants for our upgrade plan. For example, the upgrade name. This is the name that when scheduling the upgrade handler is going to look for it, so we can define it as a constant. The upgrade name is the shared upgrade plan name. We have to be careful that in our governance proposal for the upgrade we use this exact name, otherwise you will not find this upgrade. For example, we submit a governance proposal and it's on RC12 and we are having only this RC1 registered, you will not upgrade the chain, so keep that in mind. And in the upgrades.go we'll create our upgrade handler, and the upgrade handler we are going to add a create upgrade handler function. This create upgrade handler creates an SDK upgrade handler for v2 RC1, and this is going to take as input the module manager and a configurator, module configurator, and this is going to return an upgrade handler, upgrade types, upgrade handler. That's a function that has a context, an upgrade plan, upgrade types plan, and a version map, module version map, and returns a module version map, and an error. And here we will need to unwrap our context, SDK context, and we can instantiate a logger for our upgrade to log and anything that we need for checking that the upgrade was performed successfully. Upgrade and the upgrade name. This is the concept that we defined, and we can debug logger, debug running module migrations. And to do this, we're going to use the module manager and the run migrations. That's going to take the context and the configurator and the version map. What this is going to do, the module manager is going to look for the available migrations that we registered in our module. If you remember, we registered a migration here. This is part of the app module interface, so this will help the module manager to know which one of our modules has a register migration, and it will run it here. Let's import the types that we need here. So we'll need the Cosmos SDK types. We also need the upgrades. For the upgrades, we had this import upgrade types, and we can name it these upgrade types. Let's format this. And the next step is to wire this to our app. So inside our app, we can add a new file called upgrades.go. And this file, what's going to do is going to register the upgrade handlers that we have in our upgrades folder. So we'll have a function for the app, that's our RPS app, that's going to call register upgrade handlers. And here we're going to use our upgrade keeper. I'm going to set upgrade handler. In our case, we already have the v2 upgrade handler for the upgrade name that we define in our constants, and we're going to get the upgrade handler that we just defined with a function to get the corresponding logic, module manager, and the configurator of the app. And this is just registering the upgrade handler we just defined in v2 for our v2, but then we need to get some upgrade info. We can read it from disk, and upgrade keeper, read and read this info from disk. This should not error, and in case there's an error, should panic. And then if we need to include any store upgrades, the store upgrades are included when you're adding a new module to your chain that's already on production. So in order to do so, you have to include the new modules store in the upgrade. In our case, we are not going to include any new module, but you should use that. For example, in our case, would be the v2 upgrade name, and in this case we're not adding an upgrade, but we're not adding a new module, so no store upgrades. But in case you have any, you should include it in the store upgrades structure. The default, no operation, and then if the store upgrades, if there are any store upgrades, we'll have to set store loader, upgrade types, upgrade store loader for the upgrade info palette, and the store upgrades. Let's add the missing types. So store types, it's going to be Cosmos SDK.io store types. And for the upgrades, X upgrades. Upgrade, not upgrades. There we go. We can format this. This is to upgrade the store upgrades. It's just 3 slices to specify which store was named, was added, was renamed, or deleted based on the changes that you did in your next release. And now what's left is to wire up these register upgrade handlers in our app. So let's go to our app.go and down here, let's see our module options. So here we can register app, register upgrade handlers, and that's it. This is going to call, when we initialize the app, it's going to pick up the upgrade handlers that we defined here for the v2, and this is the logic that we added in our upgrades folder for the v2, and this is going to pick up any migrations that we define in our modules. We just went through the first step of the smooth upgrade strategy. We included the upgrade handler with the corresponding migrations and upgrade logic, and we also registered the upgrade handler in our app.go file. So now the next step is to create a new release candidate in our repo. Let's do this. So let's go to our code and we can commit all these changes. Let's do git add, git commit message, add upgrade logic for v2 release candidate 1. And let's push origin lesson 4. Let's make sure it is compiling, just in case that we have anything wrong here. Context imported and not used. The migrator. There we go. And let's just commit this small change, git add, git commit message, remove necessary import git push origin lesson 4. So now if we do rpsd start, let's see, everything starting. So seems to be ready for creating a new release. So let's go to our repo rps chain and we can create a new release candidate, draft a new release. We're going to use v2 rc1 create, and this is going to be from the lesson 4 latest changes previous tag. Let's see what that generates. Well, that full changelog, it's okay, we can leave it. We will compare v1 with the v2 tag, and here we can add some description, new features, add expiration height for the games, and implemented commit reveal protocol in the game, message reveal mode, something like this, just to specify what are the changes respect to v1, and we can publish this release. In this case, like, it is a release candidate that we may change. We may have many release candidates for v2. We can set it as a pre-release. So let's do this. In case there's something wrong, we can create a RC2, and once we are sure that the latest release candidate is good enough to become v2, we can change this to v2. So we can see here, for example, the changes that we have, differences in the app, the go to include the register, the upgrade handler, and everything we just added in these last few minutes. So now we completed this, we finalized the next version release candidate, and now the next step is to submit a governance proposal. So we'll have to start a chain with v1 and submit a governance proposal to upgrade to v2 rc1. Now once we do that, we have to vote yes and wait for the proposal to pass.